Hi, this is Stephen from Own or Disown, and you've more than likely seen my unboxing of the Msi Gt73Vr. Well, I've put it through its series of tests, and tell you what, I'm still sweating from that extreme heat test, to be honest with you. But it's an interesting laptop. It's a 1080p display with a 120 Hz 5 millisecond response time panel. It's a TN panel. And it's one at the top of the line. It has 32 gigabytes of RAM, a GTX 1080 GPU, and an overclockable i7-6820 CPU. Let's have a look at the ports and the size. So looking at its weight, about 8.8 pounds. It's about just over 16.5 inches long, 2 inches thick, and just over 12 inches wide. On the left hand side you have 3 USB 3 ports and the audio ports. At the back you have killer Ethernet, mini DisplayPort 1.2, Thunderbolt 3, HDMI 1.4, and on the right you have 2 USB 3 ports and an SD card reader. It's really nice to see the red accents on the back of the lid and around the exhaust vents, and looking at the underside, some excellent cooling there. One criticism I do have is that the power supply cable that comes out of the box and into your PC is about 44 inches long and tends to be a little bit short, and sometimes can hang off the edge of a table, which can pull it out the back of your computer. Let's have a look now at the screen, see what how the colours are and what it's like viewable outside. Using Spider 5 Pro to measure the colour accuracy, we get 100% of sRGB, 84% of NTSC, and 89% of Adobe RGB. Looking at a black image in a dark room, I don't see much light bleed, so I think that's great. So here we are doing my regular outdoor test. Not quite a sunny day today, but still, it is winter, so what can I expect? So this is a TN panel, so image is straight on here, and naturally if we tilt it back, it's going to start losing some fidelity, but not too much. This is at 100% brightness. And tilting it to the side, it's got good viewing angles on the side. That is good. So I think that is not bad. So it's just the vertical angles, but straight on, it's clear. Let's reduce it down in brightness a bit. So 25% brightness. You can still make out the text. That's okay. I think, of course, going to the sides, you're starting to get a bit of glare, a little bit. And it doesn't quite shine through. 50% brightness, it's perfectly fine. So I think it's a good panel. As you can see, the touchpad and the keypad light up. Let's look at it in greater detail. So taking a look at the keyboard and the trackpad. I do like this the keyboard. It's a great layout. It's same as the GT62VR. Nice spaces between the keys. I do like that. I also like the separate buttons here to alter the volume rather than having to go up to the F keys, and also likewise the brightness of the screen. And also is a big plus using the buttons here to alter the brightness of the keyboard itself. You know, there's 3 different stages of brightness you can do, and that is sweet. You've also got buttons at the top where you can go into shift mode. You know, alter the different parameters, whether we want to go turbo or comfort or eco, whatever. You can also deactivate the webcam here, if you so wish, and turn off the monitor. And on the right hand side here, you've got some hardware buttons. You've got one button here, you press that, and it switches to the integrated graphics after a restart. You've also got the fan, cooler boost fan button here. You press that. The fans crank up, you press it again, and they go slow down. So that's great fan control. You've also got the button here to launch the game caster software. Lastly, the bottom button alternates different color sequences on the keyboard, which is a nice touch. I do like the trackpad, how it's lit up around the periphery. So yeah, the trackpad is smooth and responsive. Scrolling is nice. Pinch to zoom works well, although a little bit stuttery, but that works a lot better than the GT62. Nice clickable buttons. You're not going to be able to do it in stealth mode, a little bit perhaps noisy, but so we do those Skype chats. What does the webcam look like? let's take a look. So this is the webcam. If anybody knows how to sort out all those wires at the back of my basement, please let me know. Thank you. If you're spending $3 on a laptop, you want to be able to upgrade it if you need to, don't you? So let's see what it's like inside. Looking at the back of the laptop, big air grills, great for airflow, love it. And you can see the 5-watt subwoofer vent here. 5 screws to take out and no warranty sticker. So that is very refreshing. I love it. So once you take the screws out, use a credit card or something to unlock some of the tabs, and you can just take the back off like this. And this is what you're greeted with. Subwoofer, I should say, is here, 5 watts, and 2 3-watt speakers. 2 big fans. Now these are big fans, bigger than on the Alienware. I count there's 30 fan blades, and they are bigger fan blades than on the Alienware 17. So I like that too. Bigger fans, big heat sinks here, big heat sinks at the back here as well. Why? It runs cool. Here we have the battery, 75.2 watt hour battery here, and we have the Wi-Fi Bluetooth card here, and this is where we have the some heat sinks covering the SSDs. Got 2 RAM slots here, so you could get it up to 64 gigabytes if you so wish. So that's great. At least the RAM slots that are occupied are underneath the motherboard, so you do not have to take the motherboard out to do that upgrade. And we've got a thermal pad here for the heatsink to keep the RAM, the SSDs nice and cool. And we have 3 slots for the SSDs, and we have the 2.5-inch drive underneath here. It's a PCI Express based one. The model is Msi Gt73Vr 6Rf. It's a Samsung SSD, 512 gigabytes. And the other slots are the same. They're all PCI Express NVMe based, so upgrading it should be fairly straightforward. So it's quite refreshing. Upgrades nice and easy. No warranty label to remove. I like that. Kudos to MSI this time for doing that. Now, whether it was because it was purchased through XoticPC, I don't know. But you can tell the cooling looks great, and that, hence the reason why the thickness. These fans, they must be about 1 inch thick. The fans are about 1 inch thick, and that moves a lot of air, and I think that's key. MSI bundle their Dragon Center software in here, which is very good and allows you to do a lot of different things as well as monitoring everything. So let's go through what it all does. So opening up the Dragon Center software, you're greeted with first the app portal. The SCM allows you to configure your Wi-Fi, your Bluetooth, webcam, and your display. The SteelSeries Engine 3 allows you to do GameSense, which allows you then to configure each game you have to 4 different sections of the keyboard and create profiles, so you can change the color for each of the 4 zones. The Dynamic 2 software is great. It's very powerful. It allows you to alter the sound for music, movies. That's on the multimedia setting. You can change the treble, bass, and the loudness and the voice clarity, and you can also alter the gaming, and also the microphone. You can change the level and activate noise suppression. The HD recorder allows you to trigger audio samples that you have on your computer when you press the keyboard or a gamepad, and the sound tracker allows you to put on a rotating blue disc on your screen when you're playing a game, and it shows you which direction audio is coming from. Next we have the XSplit Gamecaster software. The system monitor, which shows you the CPU, memory, and GPU and hard disk usage. Also allows you to see what the fan rates are on your CPU and your GPU, and also what the clock rates are and the voltages. Also useful is the temperatures shown at the bottom there. The LED Wizard software allows you to configure the keyboard and the trackpad to various colors, and you can choose whether it's normal, gaming, breathing, where it goes backwards and forwards, the light, and the wave, or audio, where it changes according to the music. The system tuner allows you to create profiles for your overclocking. So where you create the turbo, and you can move the sliders along to change the multiplier for the CPU and for the GPU to alter the parameters. Save a profile, and you've got it overclocked. You also have sport, comfort, and eco functions. Clicking on the mobile center allows you to view all of these settings on your mobile phone. So it's got some meaty fans in here, eh? So what does a fan sound like? How loud do they get? Ambient noise. Fans at idle. The fans are whisper quiet at idle. Case temperatures. WASD keys, 30 degrees. Center of the keyboard, 32. Number pad, 31. Trackpad, 22. In fact, no, bottom of the case, yeah, about 25. Sound of the fans under load, under automatic profile. Sound of the fans with cooler boost. Now for the speaker volume. The speakers are really loud, especially that 5-watt subwoofer. I think it's probably the best I've heard on a laptop. So can a computer this powerful last you quite a while, you know, when you're just sitting on a park bench surfing the internet? Well, let's take a look at its battery life. Interestingly, when I first turned the computer on, the power supply was not charging the battery at all. Fortunately, MSI has a battery calibration utility. I did that, and everything seemed to be fixed. It's a great advantage having that button to switch to the integrated GPU. It yielded 4 hours 25 minutes of battery time, 25% screen brightness, eco mode, and battery power saver activated. Switching to the GTX 1080 yielded 2 hours 40 minutes, and gaming at 100% screen brightness, 1 hour 9 minutes. Now the bit you've been waiting for, the benchmarks. Now MSI claims their XBoost technology speeds up the storage system, so let's check that out. Taking a look at the Atto disk benchmark on the SSD drive C, without XBoost to the left and with XBoost to the right, we do see some benefit up to around about 16 kilobytes. Looking at the regular spinning hard drive, I see no benefit with XBoost at all. So a quick look at the BIOS. It's actually quite a fully loaded BIOS. There's lots of things you can change, but most exciting is probably the overclock tab. You can enable within the BIOS the full fan speed if you like, but I don't see the point in doing that when you can actually do it through software. You can change the CPU ratio, so the multiplier. You can change various voltages on the CPU, which is great. So if we change that to 4.0, so that would be increasing it to 4 gigahertz. So when trying to go over the 4 gigahertz mark, you're greeted with a good old blue screen of death. That's either through the BIOS or through the Dragon Center software. With the CPU overclocked to 4 gigahertz, Cinebench R15 gives a score of 754, and at stock speeds, a score of 695. Very good. In my game benchmarks, I include a combination of overclocking the CPU to 4 GHz and overclocking the GPU using MSI Afterburner. Here I get 175 extra on the core and an extra 366 MHz on the memory, which isn't too bad at all. Tomb Raider shows two things very clearly. The first being that the CPU at stock is bottlenecking the GTX 1080. Overclocking it sees huge gains. Upping the resolution to 3440 by 1440 sees some gains by overclocking it, but not so much as the GPU becomes more into play. The second thing to notice is the performance of DX12. Look at the minimum frame rates in pink on the 340 by 1440, around about 42, 44. They even beat the minimums at 1080p DX11. Amazing. Rainbow Six Siege saw minor gains overclocking at the minimum frame rates. 3440 by 1440 was certainly playable at max settings, but I think if you're playing at 4K, you'll need to dial down quality a little bit. Witcher 3, so overclocking the CPU at 1080p gave 5% gains, while at 3440 by 1440, it overclocking everything gave about 10% gains. Grand Theft Auto 5 is a CPU intensive game and is excellent to showcase the improvement by overclocking your CPU. Look at the 1080p, no overclock, 103, overclock the CPU to 3440 by 1440, about the same frame rate. And overclocking both the CPU and the GPU, even at the higher resolution, beats the 1080p no overclock. Amazing. Metro Last Light also showcases how CPU limited 1080p is. 15% improvement by overclocking the CPU. Overclocking both the CPU and GPU at 3440 by 1440 gives about 16% increase. To put these Firestrike Extreme scores in perspective, an overclocked GTX 1070 notebook is about 7,600 points. So that's a 29% improvement. Can't complain. You see a similar situation with TimeSpy, which is a DX12 benchmark, and 6,900 points or so for a GTX 1080 overclocked versus the 1070 overclocked about 5,500 points. That's a 27% difference. Now to my usual test to see how it performs in very hot temperatures, cranking the room up to 26 degrees Celsius or so, overclocking it and running Firmark and Prime 95 at the same time. Let's make it sweat. Let's see how it gets on. The cooler boost activated. GPU overclocked. The CPU was overclocked, but it must throttle to keep temperatures in check. As you can see, temperatures around about 75 degrees. And the GPU maxing out around about 68 degrees Celsius. The fan speeds at cooler boost spin around about 5,000 RPM. Measuring the power at the socket whilst playing a regular game is around about 250 to 270 watts. And when overclocked, around about 286 watts. I did notice during gaming that my battery would after a while start dropping and went down as far as 95%, not any lower, and I do wonder whether that was just software to safeguard it not overcharging. Certainly I saw no degradation in performance. I recorded the temperatures of both the CPU and GPU using the auto cooling fan profile. The temperature of the GTX 1080 was pretty consistent, averaging out at 81 degrees Celsius. The i7-6820HK CPU ran nice and cool at stock at 66. Overclock it though, and it did ramp up to 78 on average, which is still pretty good. So I hope you enjoyed those tests. On the whole, I think this is probably one of the best laptops I've tried. Granted, it is expensive. The cost of entry is about $3,000. That being said, you do get a true desktop replacement really here. The GTX 1080 graphics are extremely powerful, and the overclockable i7-6820 CPU runs great too. That overclocks to 4 GHz nicely. Could not get it any higher without it crashing, and I think that's pretty standard for that, which is a shame because it's supposed to be able to get up to 4.2. Anyway, still at 4 GHz and overclocking the GPU the way I did, the temperatures were nice and cool. And doing the extreme thermal test, I was still amazed. I was sweating more than this laptop. So those really thick fans you saw when I looked inside do a great job. Also, I like the hardware buttons where you can activate the super cooling fans at a touch of a button. That's fantastic to be able to do that. No messing around with the screen. You don't have to do that. I also like that also on these buttons here that you can switch to the internal graphics. I think, you know, all laptop manufacturers should have that if they have a G-Sync panel, that you can do that, because it's a shame that otherwise you do get impacted on your battery. Now, 25% brightness, 4 hours, 25 minutes. Well, I think that's great. I think, you know, it's a fairly bright panel. If you crank it down to 15% brightness, you might be able to get to that 5-hour mark. You know, turn the lights off on the keyboard. I think that is possible. And I think for something like this, that is like groundbreaking. I like the fact that it's easy to be upgraded. Other models of the MSIs I've looked at had the warranty label on. This one didn't. Now, whether it's because XoticPC removed it and didn't put it back on, I don't know. Anyway, I'm not complaining. Easy to get in, easy to upgrade the SSDs. There's 3 you can have in there in total. You can also put 2 more sticks of RAM if you think 32 gigabytes isn't enough. It may well be someday, who knows. But so you can do all of that. Dead easy to take the back off. I like that. I love the sound on this. The speakers, you know, when I listened to the Alienware 17R4 speakers, I was blown away there, and I thought, can't get any better. Believe it or not, I think these are even better still. I think it's a 5-watt subwoofer you've got in there. It just resonates. I mean, it's fantastic. So I love the sound. The speakers are front firing, granted at the bottom, but they're not at the back this time. I can't fault it. Who knows, I might see another laptop better than this, but I think I'd be surprised. The keyboard is also a pleasure to type on. I do like the spacing between the keys. I do like the functionality where you can alter the brightness of the keys themselves on here without having to you know, go into the software and do that. I do like the fact that it's got nice big dedicated buttons here for altering the volume and the screen brightness rather than having to go into the FN keys. I do like that indeed. And it is a pleasure to touch on. I like the separate number pad. The fans, we looked at them, they're big and it's idle, they run quiet. And they have the ability then to crank up when it needs to get the job done and expel lots of air at the sides and out the back. Big vents at the bottom to suck it all out. And I think that the cooling speaks for itself, so that is awesome. I love the screen, 120 Hertz. If you've not tried a 120 Hertz screen, go ahead and give yourself a go, because you'll probably not want to go back to 60 Hertz. Just everything is so smooth. 5 millisecond response time, I think all that helps. So gamers will like this. Viewing angles, you know, they're fine, really. I mean, it's bright, and you know, even you know, sideways angles are fine. If you're watching a movie with a family, it'll do that. The sound will certainly carry the sound to your spectators. Tilting the screen back and forwards, yeah, you lose a bit of fidelity there, but I don't think that's a normal situation you're not going to use your laptop in, so can't fault the screen either. It's nice and rigid, nice aluminum back, aluminum front. I think the build quality is good. I like the etching of the Titan on the back as well, and I like the red grills on the back. Then I do like the touchpad that it's lit up as well. The MXM graphics is upgradable, so if you do want to change your graphics card, you can take it out and slap another one in. Kudos to MSI for doing that. Ports wise, I like the ports. There's lots of ports. I like the SD card reader. I'm always a fan of that because I do my videos and I like to put my SD card in there. I like having 5 USB ports. You know, if you're doing it for VR and you've got an Oculus Rift, you know, and you need 3 cameras, for instance, that speaks volumes to me. I like it's Thunderbolt 3, so it's future-proof there. HDMI 1.4. It's a shame it's not a 2.0 to give you 60 frames per second at 4K. But that being said, you can use the Thunderbolt. It's a shame there's no USB Type-C port. I would like to have seen that, because most of the docking stations are either USB 3 or USB-C, USB Type-C. But I think there's going to be more Thunderbolt docking stations coming out shortly. So the other cons, against it, the weight. I mean, it's not, considering how thick it is, it's surprisingly quite light. It is lighter than the Alienware 17R4, but it's still, 8.8 pounds, nearly 9 pounds. It's still fairly heavy. The thickness, okay, yeah, there's no getting around it. It is thick, but looking at those fans and the heat sinks, you need that thickness there to help keep it cool. I hope you enjoyed my video, and if you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you feel so inclined, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.